Free will, egregores, and magic or meditation. Free will. When it comes to free will, you get the final vote. But a lot of things, i.e., egregores, have their finger on the scale. Now, also keep in mind that when you're talking about free will, you have free will because of your innate divine nature. Without this, well, you're just a rock on the ground. That said, a lot of things can kind of tip the scales on how much free will you have or how that free will manifests. This is one of my favorite topics in all of esoterica, the issue of egregores or empowered thought forms. As we've talked about a lot on the 60 Skills channel, egregores explain why doctors look and act like doctors, cops look and act like cops, soldiers look and act like soldiers, so on and so on and so on. As a more famous man than me once said, you can't fake the funk. And that's what egregores do. By being empowered thought forms, when you become deeply involved in something to the degree it's a serious hobby, a religion, or maybe a profession, that energetic signature is going to penetrate you highly. In turn, this is going to influence your ability to make decisions in accordance with your free will. And here's the scary part. The decisions you make are going to appear completely organic. So I'll give you an example of this. For a while, I was practicing a school involved with St. Cyprian. St. Cyprian is the patron saint of magic in many Christian systems. It's not widely known, but that's what he does. Well, along the way of becoming highly involved with this entity, I suddenly decided or had the feeling that I wanted to be declared a priest in an apostolic line of succession. Now keep in mind, this seemed completely natural. There was nothing about this that seemed to be a manipulation or artificial. I seemed very genuine in this desire. Well, some other things went on when working with this system, and I decided that I wanted to break with this system despite my earlier vows of lifelong fidelity. First off, that desire to become a priest completely vanished overnight. It was like flipping a switch, just went away. Second, I ended up with a series of massive headaches. Third, it took a really long time to fully get over breaking up with that. So that talks about some of the potentially negative aspects of working with an egregore and exactly how this can impact your free will. Now, don't get me wrong, there were a lot of good things that came from working with that egregore as well. Access to several rituals and abilities that to have developed on my own would have taken an extremely long period of time, but happened very naturally, if you will, as a result of working with that entity. In many respects, I still miss some of that. What I don't miss, however, is the overt manipulation. By nature, I'm not a terribly religious person, so this spontaneous desire to become a priest was really quite odd. Now, here's where you also have to get into the issue of where you pick your battles. For example, if you don't have the energetic signature, or for lack of a better term, vibe, of a professional marketer, you're not going to find work as a professional marketer in the marketing community. People with absolutely no esoteric training of any kind are incredibly sensitive to people being different. And if you're too different, you're clearly not a part of their group, and they don't want you around. Now, this isn't a bad thing. Society, for any number of completely useless reasons, has come across this idea that everybody has to like everybody else. That's not true. That is, in fact, highly counterproductive when it comes to getting things done. Specialized groups of people largely have to think and act alike in order to be efficient in doing what they're doing. This is true of law enforcement, this is true of the legal profession, this is true of engineering, this is true of medicine, so on and so on and so on. Precisely because achieving things is largely the result of group effort. And if there are too many differences in opinions or views on how to get things done, you're not very efficient. It slows the process down and results in arguments and things not being done. So belonging to an egregore, depending upon what you do, is actually incredibly valuable and not something to be rudely dismissed. So, and this issue of having the correct egregore becomes incredibly important when you're dealing with rich and powerful people. You need to understand that when someone is rich and powerful, the people they have around them exist to further their goals. And this is important because the guy who can run a multi-billion-dollar factory setup is pretty damn rare. And without him, a lot of things in societies don't work. So anything that's around that individual that's a distraction, like a magically empowered person, needs to go. And this isn't a bad thing. It's a good thing, because you need people like that completely focused upon what they're doing in order for society to function. So that's a little bit about egregores. Now, when it comes to magic and meditation, there are some other interesting things that involve free will. One, they make it very easy to make contact with multiple egregores and can, when properly used at the end of the day, allow you to do a lot of things at a fairly high level that most people would struggle to do individually throughout the course of their lifetime. This is a real advantage. It also comes with the disadvantage that if you choose wisely and get yourself involved with something that's largely negative or fairly grungy, well, you're going to pick up that vibration and other people are going to pick up on that too. Not good. And those negative entities, for lack of a better term, will negatively impact your decision-making process. But this is where people who practice magic and meditation deeply have one slight advantage. Those practices, be they magical or meditative, when properly leveraged, again, notice a whole bunch of caveats in here, will make you very sensitive to that energetic signature associated with an egregore and potentially allow you to do something about it. Now, this isn't as easy as simply flipping a switch, but as we like to say, awareness, or knowing that something's going on, is the first step in figuring out what the hell to do about it. So this is a big deal. Those students of mine who've gone the distance with identifying the 3 different bodies and the energies associated with them become very effective at noticing when something is influencing them that does not come internally. So this is a huge advantage to having these kinds of practices, because now you know, at least a little bit, when something is trying to work you, and so you can do something about it. Now, what can be done to reinforce your free will? Understanding that not having access to the proper egregores can limit you professionally and socially in ways that might not be to your liking. Okay, well, within the 60 skills curriculum, we have a lot of tools available. First of all, there's the basic 3 transformation exercises, which teaches you how to sense these subtle energies at the vital, astral, and mental level. This is the first step in being aware of when something's happening. A lot of empaths frequently describe a scenario where they're walking down the street and all of a sudden some odd thought enters their mind. You have to be able to notice that to do anything about it. Now, there are other exercises like the 3 releases, which allow you to get rid of some of this aberrant programming. Additionally, when you move on to things like Kabbalistic letter work, there are letter combinations like the EN letter formula that allow you to essentially create a barrier between you and these outside forces. Finally, we also have things like breath retention work that properly reestablish that medium between your different subtle bodies that makes it very hard for outside influences to come in. So these are all different ways that you can address these issues of manipulation. But again, at the end of the day, what I would say is most effective for most people is, as always, to choose your battles. You need some kinds of association in life in order to get anything done. So the idea of living completely free of these, while attractive on paper, doesn't really work that well in practice. Because again, you need people to associate with. Group work is how we get things done in the real world, whether that's working as a scientist, working as a doctor, working as an engineer, or being a soldier. The lone wolf dies alone, usually of starvation and disease. People who work together get things done. So, if you would like to learn more about all of this, come check out 60skills.com or hit the like button and subscribe to my YouTube channel where you're watching this video presently. Otherwise, as per usual, train hard and be well.